This is the Spotlight segment. Stay tuned for premium interviews, device unboxing and more.
Well, let's turn to the first of our Spotlight double bills then. And on the 17th of January this week, Samsung held its Galaxy Unpacked 2024, John's joint favourite day of the year, where they released a whole bunch of shiny new phones with shiny new features. Let's start with those phones. John, it would seem remiss of me not to invite you to talk about this first.
Sure. So it doesn't come as a surprise, but Samsung has announced the S24, the S24 Plus, and the S24 Ultra. And, which has been typical in recent years. There's not much different about them. They have the new Snapdragon chip, at least in the US. The Ultra model has the Snapdragon chip, the 8 Gen 3 in all regions, but the S24 and the S24 Plus have the Exynos 2400, I believe, which is pretty close to, from the benchmarks that have leaked so far, is pretty close to the Snapdragon this time, which is a little better than how it's been in the past. But for whatever reason, Samsung's, and by whatever reason, I mean money, because that's always the reason, Samsung has decided not to make the Snapdragon available in all regions this year, the exception, of course, being the Ultra model. And other upgrades that are probably worth mentioning are the screens on all three are now brighter, so they're up to 2600 nits peak brightness now. On the Plus and the standard model, they now can adjust their refresh rate all the way down to 1 hertz, which they couldn't do previously, so that will save on battery life. So when you're sitting still just reading something on the screen and it's not scrolling or playing a video or anything, it will ramp down to 1 hertz to save a little bit of battery. The Ultra model has a new telephoto camera. So there was a 10x on the last generation, the S23 Ultra, but it was only a 10 megapixel lens. So now they have a 50 megapixel lens that is only 5x. So, but with digital crop, you'll end up with a 10x zoomed photo at 12.5 megapixels rather than a 10 megapixel photo. So even though the numbers look like less as far as the zoom factor, you can still get a better resolution image out of it. And it also makes the jump from the 3x telephoto lens a lot less. So before it was cropping any zoom from 3x to 10x, it was cropping. Now it only has to crop up to 5x, which will make the intermediate zoom shots a lot better quality. Let's see, the memory is the same on the base model. It's 8 gigabytes. The memory is the same on the Ultra. It's 12 gigabytes. But the memory on the Plus has changed to 12 gigabytes. So last year, the Plus model had 8 gigabytes. This year, it has 12 gigabytes. And this year, it starts at 256 gigabytes storage. So I think the best upgrade within the S24 family actually is the S24 Plus. It's got the biggest jump specs-wise over last year.
And storage-wise, I think if you pre-order, they're doubling the storage, are they not?
Yeah, and yes, they are. In any case, so if you get the base S24, you can get the 256 gigabyte version for the price of the 128. You can get, on the Plus, you can get the 512 for the price of 256. And then on the Ultra, you can get the 512 for the price of 256, or you can get the 1 terabyte for the price of the 512.
And it's a silly question, I know, John Boy, but have you purchased yourself one of these shiny new devices?
I've purchased 2. So
Two?
I couldn't make up my mind because I think I want the Plus and I think I want the Ultra. So I'm not keeping them both. Don't get me wrong, but with trade-in and everything, I think the Plus is a much better deal. It ends up I'd have to pay $300 more to get the Ultra because that's something I also didn't mention, which was kind of important. They did a price hike. The Ultra now starts at $1,300 instead of $1,200. So I'd have to pay an extra $300 to get basically just better cameras and an S Pen, which I never use basically. So I think I might end up landing on the Plus, but I'll at least let the Ultra tempt me a little bit. The Plus is much closer to the Ultra this year because of the upgrades I mentioned earlier. I don't think I mentioned it, but now it has the same resolution as the Ultra, whereas before it just had the same resolution as the base model. So it's definitely the best upgrade of the 3.
And sorry, did you say the Plus came in a 1 terabyte version, or is that just the Ultra?
No, just the Ultra.
Yeah. The trade-in this year, were you happy with the values, or could they have been more generous?
They were better than last year. So they gave me $750 for my Ultra. And last year they were giving $600 for the Ultra. So they're much better than they were last year.
Yeah. I think it's $640 here for the Ultra. So, yeah, which is interesting because they are pound to dollar equivalent prices, I believe.
Mhm.
So they're not being as generous. Well, that might actually be close to the exchange rate, but they're not being as generous given that the prices aren't subject to the exchange rate. They appear to be dollar for pound equivalents. And when do your shiny toys arrive? What's the release date?
I think the 31st is the release date, but usually I get them a few days early. Like Friday is the release day, and then sometimes they come on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Nice. So even more exciting week in that's not next week, is it? The week after. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so let's move to the topic of controversy then, and this is chips. Is it just the US that gets Snapdragon, or does South Korea get Snapdragon as well?
Well, before we talk about that, I want to say the reason why John got 2, because he's going to be sending me the Plus. You guys were not privy to it. We are doing another dual unboxing, and therefore it just didn't make sense for him unboxing both at the same time. So that's the reasoning behind it. Don't mind John just hiding it from you guys, but just giving you a heads up.
I'm going to have
what's
to edit
going
my
on.
order details now. Change my shipping address.
Oh my gosh. But it's interesting to see what they've done, especially with the prices and adding more to the price. It seems like everyone is kind of like upping their prices a little bit. So now, well, let's talk about the chip. And that chip, though, I don't know, because, Samsung skipped the 2300 and went straight to the 2400 because the last Exynos was 2200, as John indicated. And so because they want to be closer to what the performance of the Qualcomm chip is, they skipped all the way to the 2400. And like John says, it's almost comparable to the Qualcomm. So I know it's a very sore spot for many people, but especially the people in the know, like the Android enthusiasts, will know the difference. But my argument is that the person out on the street there doesn't even know what powers their phone anyway. They want a Samsung phone. That's all that matters. And so, but you can hear all the people whining about it, over the internet, the people in the know and all of that. The average Joe out there, however, knows little is squat. But do you think Samsung is doing fair for giving Qualcomm chips in other places and not all across the board like they did last year?
We get the Exynos chip. I've just looked actually. The Snapdragon is US, which I might predict, South Korea, which I might predict, and also China.
And Japan.
Japan as well?
Yeah.
Doesn't
those
say
countries,
Japan here.
well, those countries always have, I don't, unless they change it this year, but every time that everyone else has Exynos, the US, China, South Korea, and Japan always had the Qualcomm.
I think it's fair to say that we don't think it's fair, do we, Kareem?
Of course we don't, because actually people internationally are paying the same price as you guys are paying in the US. I mean, Warren and John, you pay the same amount that we pay outside of the US. So, and we are getting not the same experience. Okay, John was saying that it is maybe close this year. However, we can't say for now because the reviews are not out there yet, so we should wait. However, like it is something that we are all used to, which is that Exynos chips were just behind the Snapdragon ones, and that was a known fact. And last year, when they released the S23 as one unified chip, people were just so happy about it. Reviewers were really happy about that, and actually, it gained like the award of best phone or the best series or the best S series from many reviewers. They considered that was one of the like the best S series phones that were released. So yeah, and this year they are just removing that and ruining the unified experience again. And yeah, everyone will say, "Hi, do you have the Exynos?" No, I don't have it. I have the Snapdragon one, and then like that. So I don't think that this is at all making sense.
It does not even make sense with Samsung because they have to build like two versions of the software, one for Snapdragon, one for Qualcomm chip. But one secret that only Ed and I know is that pixels are powered by potato chips.
Well, here's the thing, though, and like I always say, you follow the mullah, and I think that what it is, besides that fact, I think Samsung does not necessarily want the Exynos chip to go by the wayside. So they're doing all that they can to keep it alive and improve it. And if they get it to where it's on the same par with Qualcomm, you can bet on it that they will be getting rid of the Qualcomm all across the board. So I can see where they're coming from, but that's my gut feeling about it, because they don't want to just say, hey, we want to get rid of our own thing. This is what we're producing. And if you are in their shoe, you're producing something, I don't think all of a sudden you want to throw that away. You've put a lot of money into it, and it would be unwise for them to just, here, we want to dump it off. Unless, of course, they decide, oh, let's just use it for our mid-rangers. Then that's a different thing.
Yeah,
Well, they
and
give it to you then. You can have it.
Well, I'm not a mid-ranger user.
and as Karine mentioned, like, we don't know until we get our hands on these how they really perform, because I mentioned some benchmarks are leaking, but it's not just benchmarks that matter, because, for example, the 8 Gen 2 was a really efficient chip, and the 8 Gen 3 is supposed to be, I think, 15% more efficient. So just because it can match or come close to matching performance doesn't mean you're going to get good battery life out of it. That's something that we won't know until after these phones are in people's hands.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm an S23 user, and I'm not thinking of upgrading to S24 because of this processor discrimination. They just lost one user in this case.
Yeah, but like I said, though, the majority of the people, all they want is a Samsung phone. The reason why you guys are barely aching about it is because you're in the know. The average guy out there on the street doesn't give a rat about, what it is. All they want is a Galaxy phone. I mean, let's be honest. They want a phone, it's from Samsung, that's all that matters. But you and I, on the other hand, however, want to know what chip it runs and all those whistles, the bells and the whistles and all the good stuff, the RAM and all of that. A lot of people don't. They just have that new shiny device, looks the same. That's all that matters.
Just gonna say to Warren, that may be so, but that's no reason to do it. Just because no one will notice.
Nah, Ed, use this.
That was a good point, Ed.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's a good point, Ed. At least
Character
you are
is
not-
who you are in the dark.
Exactly. Thank you very much, John, for singing my tune.
Anything about the battery this year, John? Is that the same?
Now, Ed, I'm glad you mentioned that battery, and it's been one of my biggest gripes with Samsung. And I can imagine why, or the kind of feeling a little bit, penny shy about, giving bigger batteries, given the fact that we had that battery get of Note 7 back in 2016. And so I can see why they're kind of a little bit being cautious. But by heaven, we should have, with the size of the phones that we have from Samsung 6.7, 6 point whatever, we should at least, at the very barest minimum, have a 5,000 milliamp battery in every single one of those. And the Ultra should even be almost like close to 6,000 milliamp battery. So that's my gripe. I mean, come on, you're giving me a great phone, give me power to last me throughout the whole week or 3 days, whatever the case may be. That's what I would like to see.
John, do you have a rebuttal?
No, I think. Well, I agree with him on the smaller phone because I think they did. Well, I don't know if they made it larger or not. I know the screen is larger, but whether the actual phone is larger or not, I'm not sure. I know the other two phones are the same screen size as they were, or are the same physical size as they were. So I don't really know why they'd be able to fit more battery in this year. I mean, other manufacturers do it, but they I think are prioritizing room for like cooling and stuff like that over battery, which is, I think that goes back to what Warren was saying as well. They're more concerned about, the safety and performance of the device rather than battery life. And with these newer chips, at least the Snapdragon ones, they have gotten a lot more efficient. So I'm not as concerned about super large batteries as I used to be.
Just on super large batteries, you will have heard perhaps Harris' review of the WP30 from Alcatel or Ucatel or however you say it. They are coming out with a phone with a 22,000 mAh battery. Might already be out.
Oh my gosh. They're not even going to allow you on the plane.
No. Although really annoyingly, it's the WP33 Pro, but you're having to make feature choices. It's not better than the 30. It's just got a bigger battery and louder speakers, but the other features of the 30 are better. So they haven't kind of put all their eggs in one basket, which is a bit disappointing. It's really cheap. I might get one. I think it's supposed to be 136 decibels.
Oh gosh, you should. But so you see, here's my thing though, the whole battery thing. So I'm not one of those people that like to carry, power banks around and all that silly stuff. I just want to be able to at least use my phone I'm asking for is 3 days. I mean, even with my Pixel 8 Pro, I only charge it twice a week. That's all I'm asking for. And frankly, I'm not asking for anything more. At least give us 5,000 K for every single effing phone out there. Excuse my Espanol, but it's very annoying to me when they put bigger batteries in the mid-rangers and then you deny someone who's paying a lot of moolah that capability of having a good battery in their phone. I think that's absolutely stupid.
Some of the reason for putting them in the mid-ranges, though, is obviously they're being sold in markets as well where there's unreliable power. So that's sometimes why cheaper phones have bigger batteries.
Yeah, but just because I have power, I don't want to be plugging my phone in every freaking day. No,
Yeah.
I hate that. It depreciates your battery, really. I don't want to be charging my phone every day. I don't. I make it a practice never to charge my phone every day. It's just stupid. I don't want to do that. So come on, Samsung, wake up, boys and gals. Give us better batteries. That's all we're asking for. Other than that, I love the hardware. I think they got it right.
They didn't.
No, they didn't.
Oh my gosh, this girl.
You know,
They did not
Samsung,
get it right.
Samsung is fighting me. They are just ruining my connection.
I can see why you're all kind of perturbed about it because so if I say they get it right, you're gonna disagree with me. But the hardware is good though, Karen, no?
No, the hardware is very bad. It's the Exynos, the Qualcomm chip. We want the Qualcomm chip everywhere.
What is used is the Snapdragon Gen 3 for Galaxy, which is also the way of Samsung to say this is better than the regular Gen 3. Samsung likes this thing. This is because Samsung likes to attract people, impress people, and people like this. They feel that they are special, and this is. But if you look at this Samsung or this Qualcomm Gen 3 for Galaxy, it is a modified version. They worked with Qualcomm on that. However, the modification or the thing that you will get is not really a bump in speed or something. One core is upgraded with respect to speed. However, other cores are downgraded. So, according to an XDA article, the real difference between the regular or the standard Gen 3 and the Gen 3 for Galaxy will not be something really noticeable. So, actually, people are getting sort of the same chip and the same power and the same stuff, but just Samsung likes to say this is for Galaxy.
So Samsung got bamboozled by Qualcomm because they paid them a lot of money to have that special chip.
It was they are giving that for free.
I think they did this last year, but I think it was the same chip. They were just the only ones who were allowed to overclock it or something.
It was the Plus. I think it was the one that was released as a Plus. Then Qualcomm released the Gen 2 Plus, which was the same power or the same chip, which was in the Galaxies.
Yeah, but the thing is, Samsung knows what's going on, and I don't think that they feel like they're being shafted because, frankly, the Samsung engineers know more than what the XDA article writers write. So I'm going to put more stock in what Samsung is doing. They have tested these things with Qualcomm and see what it is. And so even if someone feels that, it's just a gimmick or whatever, I think they know what they're doing. And so I don't think they're getting cheated. They know exactly what they went in for. And so if Karin, this is true, let's say if this is true and being iffy here, then if it's not that great, then why are you even worried about it as to you not getting the Qualcomm chip?
Wait. How are you doing that?
I just did it.
You just wait. You are just shifting the whole discussion to something which is this is a flawed logic.
No,
because I said that we want the Qualcomm one, the Snapdragon one. Okay, the difference here that I'm talking about is between the Gen 3 of Snapdragon and the Gen 3 for Galaxy only. It's not related to iPhone.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm saying if that's what is going on, because Samsung has always customized this with Qualcomm all this time that they do their own, they want to make address certain things with their phone, and other manufacturers do that too. It's not only Samsung that does that. I don't remember which of them does it also. It's not only Samsung that does that, but if that's what they're doing, but what I'm saying, if it's not that great anyway, then you kind of were a little bit, you and Ed were kind of belly aching that they didn't give it to you guys across the board. Now knowing this, why does it even matter to you?
Because Gen 3 itself is good.
We want the Snapdragon Gen 3, whether it's great, not great, the Galaxy Gen 3, Gen 3 Plus, whatever, but we want the Snapdragon Gen 3.
Just even if it's worse, we want to be equal with the US. Yeah.
I can never win with you guys, no matter what.
No, but really, let me clarify something, which is if they are doing compatibility stuff or to make it like a custom version, this is not wrong at all to have a custom version. However, what I'm talking about is if they are trying to let people think that it is something much better in terms of speed or something, this is not the case. Only by custom version, it's not in any way wrong.
Well, I think they want smooth performance and all of that stuff. I think every manufacturer would want to do that. And so I'm just glad to see that we have that going. And especially the Ultra, at least, is the Qualcomm, Snapdragon across the board, regardless of where you live, whether you live in, the Sahara Desert or you live somewhere in the Mojave Desert in California or a Mongolian desert, you still have that Ultra with the Qualcomm chip. If you don't like the Exynos, then go for the Gusto.
So what Samsung should do, they should give the Ultra for the same price as the Plus and the Basic. to all the non-US people only.
Then I'll be asking you, Austin, what kind of drink are you drinking? What's the color of your
No, I
drink?
said I said only to non-US users they should give the Ultra as the same price. US
That's
can
what
pay more.
exactly. I hear you, but I'm asking you, what would be the color of your drink?
No, because we want the Snapdragon. We don't want Qualcomm. That's why.
Oh boy, this boy. Okay, that's good enough. We'll have to, kind of twist Samsung's arms to give you a little bit of the same price. For how much is it? $799. Give Austin the Ultra for $799.
You're listening to the Blind Android Users podcast.
Let's talk about some of the software features, and there's a few things to talk about here. There's all the AI stuff, and then we'll touch on software updates. So who wants to talk about what we can expect from some of this AI from Samsung?
So the first part that I like is that the calling. So when someone calls you, it translates what the person is saying, the opposite person, in 14 different languages or the language that you want it to be translated in. You can see what they are saying and then you can either answer the call or what. This is very good for driving because they may be having this feature on the watch where your screen reader will read, or when you are not able to pick up the phone or pick up the call on the watch, you can just read what they're saying and all those things. So that is a nice feature. The second good feature is photo editing. So like they you can click the photo of the moon using S21 and higher, but S24, what it will do, when you click a photo of the moon, you don't see that the rocks in the moon or the mountains or whatever they are there. So if you just want to complete that photo, the AI will complete it for you. And the third feature related to photo itself I like is, if you want, let's say there's a car in the photo and you want information about the car, you just hold on that car and it will give you the information including what model and company. So I saw these on the hands-on video, but I don't know how accessible it will be. The all the three features when we get the unit, when then we will know about that. And that's all the things I like.
Warren?
I kind of really like what they're doing. Everyone's into AI now and all of that. And you guys realize, how tightly Google and Samsung are doing things together. I like the idea, and it wouldn't surprise me if at some point they may come to an agreement, say, hey, you guys just do the software and we'll just do the phones, and you Google guys just forget about phones. We'll just do the hardware, all of that. Anyway, I hope we don't see that day, but because that'll just cut down on our choices of phones and all of that. But I like what is going on. And the thing, though, that I'm a little bit concerned about, because I do have a link here we'll put in the show notes, is that if you go to Samsung's page there, this AI thing is only going to be El Fribo till the end of 2025. And they didn't say how much it's going to be charged for or how much they're going to charge for it and all of that. But the good thing is that it would also trickle down to some of the other phones, especially maybe like the S23 series. I'm not sure it's going to trickle down to the S22 series, but it's not something that's going to be perpetually free, unless, of course, if people kick against it. Because, yeah, these things sound grandiose from the get-go and all of that. But the reality is, and most of the time, people don't even use those things. And so if people don't use those things, probably they're not going to charge for it after the end of 2025. That's all I wanted to say about the Samsung AI.
So in the hands-on video that I was seeing, the Samsung representative, he was talking to the person making the video. So he said that it will trickle to all the S20 series of the phone and also the top variant of the mid-range. So it'll take time though. It won't trickle like just now. It will take some time. How much time that they didn't say, but it will come for sure. Some, at least some of the features that don't require CPU processing will come to older phones. And also what I like about these is that all the features are done on device, so nothing much goes to the cloud. Only I think when you want the car information, that part it will have to send somewhere. I don't know if it has all the information on the device. I don't think it should have that. So I think some part is sent to the cloud, but mostly all is done on device.
Austin, I think you are talking about the image search that is not by holding your finger on the thing, it is just by drawing a circle around the object that you want to do a Google search for. As far as I know, this will do a Google search and it will bring you the relative information about the object, which will
No, I
need,
think
of course.
this thing is different. I think that the one that he showed on the hands-on video, and I had the link in the internal podcast, and also we'll be putting it in the show notes. He held on that image and it gave the information of the car. So I think this circle to search is a different thing.
Maybe anyone
So-
else has information?
So just to explain the circles of search thing, it's called circles of search, but you don't have to circle something. You can long press on something. You can scribble, like color something in, or highlight text by just like drawing your finger across it. Obviously, none of this stuff is probably going to be accessible, but the idea is that you're going to long press the home button now, and if you don't have a home button, you're going to long press the navigation gesture area at the bottom of the screen, and then it'll put you in a mode where you can circle or color in a part of the screen. And what it will do, what it's technically doing is it's taking a screenshot and it's cropping everything except what you circled, and then it's doing a reverse image search on Google of that portion of the screen. So you can do this in any app. You can literally even do this in your camera. Like you can point at an option, at an item, and circle it on screen, and it'll reverse image search it and give you all the details about it. And it won't put you in the Google app. It'll just do an overlay and give you all the details about this. And I'm curious to see how, or if at all, this is accessible. I think in order for it to be accessible, they'd have to have the AI predetermine things that you might want to circle or select and have them be selectable by TalkBack when you go into the circle to search mode. And I hate to be negative, but I'd be shocked if that's the case coming out of the gate anyway.
Well, I guess until you get yours, John, we wouldn't know for sure. But I'm such an optimist. I'm thinking it would be accessible to us because it's just text. I'm thinking if you find an image or you find something, a word or whatever, you long press on it after you've done that. I'm sure it should be able to interact with our assistive technology and tell us what it is. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but something tells me it would work. So if it doesn't, of course, feedback, we'll give them feedback. But let's see what happens. It's just a matter of maybe a couple of weeks or so, and you'll be testing it and letting us know what you think.
And just to reiterate what Austin was saying about the translation features, there's a couple things they announced. One is like the phone calls, as he mentioned, and it's literally like the Bixby voice translating what you say. So the other person hears, they could choose, you can set it to allow them to only hear the translation or to allow them to hear you and the translation, and vice versa, whether you want to hear their actual voice and the translation or just the translation. But basically, it does all this on your device. It will translate what they're saying, and you'll hear Bixby, one of Bixby's voices, 4 voices. I'm assuming you can choose which one will say it. And of course, depending on the language, you might not even have 4 voices. But the Samsung TTS voice, or Bixby voice, whatever you want to call it, is what will actually say the words to you out loud. So it's an audible thing. Like it's not like on-screen translation. But however, they did announce that it will translate text in conversations automatically too, like in text chat conversations, where the bubble will show you what they actually texted, and then right under that, it'll show you the translation for you. And then when you send it will send them the translated version, but it will show you both what you had typed and what it translated it to. So those are both cool features. And what they did mention that they're using Google's Gemini Nano for on-device stuff, but a lot of this stuff is also using cloud, like the summarization things. That does use the cloud. And they didn't mention what service it's using, whether they're using ChatGPT or whether they're using Gemini for that also. But either way, Samsung does not do their own AI. So however they're getting it, they're having to pay for it. And I think that's why they're going to try to, if it ends up being too costly for them, they're going to try to, forward that bill to you as the user. And what features that applies to, I'm going to assume it's only going to be the cloud features. I think the on-device stuff, they might be able to allow to be free, but this is something we don't know anything about. And I guess we'll have to wait 2 years to find out.
And those translation features, John, do you need two compatible S24s for that to work, or can an S24 send that to any old device?
No, your phone only has to. You just have to have the S24, and you will have to download the language pack for whatever language you're going to be talking in ahead of time, or it might ask you once it detects the language if you want to download the pack. I'm not sure what the setup process is, but yeah, it happens all on just your one device.
Excellent.
Yeah. And, let's be honest, a lot of even with the Pixel phones, a lot of the AI stuff is on the cloud. The on-device thing is very minimal. Let's be realistic with ourselves here. So things like common mundane stuff will be on device, but heavy-duty stuff definitely will require the cloud. So let's not deceive ourselves, regardless of who it is. I mean, pictures and video stuff, it's not going to be offline.
And I think while we're talking about software, we definitely buried the lead here. And that's that they have matched Google with 7 years. They've promised 7 years of OS and security updates. So your Galaxy S24 will be getting Android 21.
Well, you guys remember when Google announced this and when we were talking about it on our podcast here, and we were saying we want to see this as, roadmap for other manufacturers to follow. And here we are. Samsung is following suit. And frankly, Sony, if you're listening or, whoever you are, what I would like to see is that even if you are just giving 1 year, now this calls for you to now give us at least at the very barest minimum 3. And everybody will be happy because to be honest, and like we said, a lot of people anyways, in 3 or 4 years would get a different device. All right, that's just the truth. Let's face it. Most people will not keep their phones for more than 4 years or whatever. I know there's some people that don't care and will have it for a long time. I mean, I'm looking at my wife. She doesn't want to change her phone. I mean, want to say, hey, let's change it. I'm doing fine. I mean, one of our students grabbed her phone, threw it across the classroom. And I mean, thank goodness, my insistence on the tempered glass, that was the salvation of that phone. All that we had to do was to change that tempered glass. Had it not been with tempered glass, definitely we would have gotten a different Samsung device. But some people don't care about, getting a new one and all of that. But in 3 or 4 years, at least someone would have changed it. And like we always said, the battery is the determinator here. For example, if my battery after 5 years is not keeping me up to 3 or 4 hours or maybe even 2 hours or whatever, I definitely would be forced to get a different phone.
Speaking of updates, here's the thing, and it should be also a real good example for other manufacturers. LG, which is no longer making phones, they announced the V60 in 2020, and they updated the phone until Android 13, and even they say they will be updating the last version, Android 14. That's a great thing from a manufacturer which is no longer making phones. So those others in the field, like Sony, Xiaomi, OnePlus, they should also follow that. They will be staying for a long time, so they should be making big update roadmaps.
I think everyone is going to be forced to do something because if you want people to buy your phones, you need to give them support. I mean, they are not cheaper, guys. Things are only getting more expensive. And there's no reason for me to give you all that boatload of moolah when you're not giving me all the support I need. We're not asking for 10 years. We're not asking, but at the barest minimum, give people at least 3 years or 4. And I'm talking about, Motorola, I'm looking at you. Motorola, Nokia, Sony, guys, wake up. It's time to do the right thing, because give us 3 or 4 years. Or 3 years will be fine. At least the gatekeepers, Samsung and Pixel, are giving us unmatched 7-year update. That's fine, but you guys need to give us half of that. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, and they're getting, I mean, not necessarily lengthwise, but speed-wise on the A series even. I was really surprised that my A33 work phone got a 6.1 a couple of weeks ago. UI 6.1. So that was an Android 14. That was a good thing. And yes, the others definitely need to up their game, duration-wise and longevity-wise of those updates.